Shalom ubracha, and I hope this message finds people well. Today and for the next couple of days until the next message, we are exploring the world of eating, the world of food. Now, it's interesting to note because when we speak about eating, there's obviously the physical action of eating, but how much of eating is to do with our psychology as well? Originally, it's important to recognize that food is there to keep our bodies healthy. Food is energy, food is medicine. It keeps our bodies healthy, or it should keep our bodies healthy. And there are a number of dimensions of why we eat. And it's important to think about. We eat, for example, when we are hungry. We're hungry. We want to put food into our body sometimes when we are dehydrated. What about emotional eating or religious eating? Boredom eating. I mean, there's a number of reasons why we put food into our body. Some of the reasons are more desirable and some are less desirable. But did we ever stop to think about why we put food into our body, the reasons we put food into our body? It's important to explore. It's important to think about this. And what I can share is that, unfortunately, I think in our generation, and as we go forward in time, one will see this more and more. From the 20th century onwards, we're really abusing ourselves in the realm of food. Once upon a time, if you think about it, you ate from what you grew from, or you ate from what you had. And when we're speaking about this way of eating, it's a very different experience of eating. Most of the food we ate, we know where it came from. Most of the food that we put into our system, we grew it ourselves. We know what the ingredients were. And unfortunately, we're living in a generation today where most people, the food that they eat is not grown from the labor of their hands. The food that so many people eat, they haven't got a clue what's inside of it. It's been packaged. It's been sitting around for however long. And the whole processing of the food. It's a big deal, Chevra. It's a big deal. You know, most of us think we need to have 3 meals a day. Who says? Where did that number come from? And what I can come to share is based on tremendous amount of research. We overeat tremendously. It's not just talking about the food we put into our body. We overeat. The quality of food we put into our body is lacking a lot of the time, the good, healthy nutrition that we need, unless we are really conscious about it. We as well are not conscious necessarily about how much we're putting into our body. And it catches up on us. As the Gemara says in Shabbos, most people die by the pot. They die by food. It's a wild matzav. It's so strange to think about. Is it better to eat more? Or is it better to eat less? As we mentioned a number of weeks ago, that we can go with food for a long period of time. We need to drink. We don't need to eat that much. Millions of animals are killed a year, for example, for food, and a big chunk of those animals go to waste. And it's not good for our environment. It's not good for the world we live in. It's not good for us as a species. Obesity, it's crazy. And obviously, it's not such a difficult leap of logic to recognize the food that we put into our body affects our psychology, affects our immunity, affects our neurology. And the Maranaim writes that the food we eat becomes our thinking, so to speak. This is so true. So, Chevra, think about the following. Think about how much we eat. Do we need to eat as much? Have you ever heard of intermittent fasting? 12 hours of not eating and 12 hours of eating. But to make sure that We eat, instead of 3 meals, maybe, 3 unhealthy meals, change it out to 3 healthier meals, whatever the quality is. What do I mean by healthy? It's a big word. Right now, even though it's not a full definition of healthy, but right now, I would say wholesome eating is lessening. First of all, let's talk about what one shouldn't have so much of, what one should lessen. Sugars, salts, meats. If one can increase, I would say, green, healthy vegetables, greenery, more of a plant-based diet. Plant-based diet. That's what I would suggest. Plant-based diet for the next couple of days. Grains, fruits, vegetables, try that. And it should come hopefully from a good place. Try that. Lessen meats, lessen sugars, lessen salts. Now, at first it appears, it may appear to us, it may be experienced as, it doesn't taste as good. That's because we're so saturated with sugars and salts, our body's not used to it. So experiment, more of a plant-based diet. That's what I would start off by saying, lessening the meat, lessening the sugars, lessening the salts, salads, grains. Experiment and experience with that. Try to move to, a brown rice or brown bread, something like that. And maybe have 2 meals a day. Experiment with that. Notice what goes on. Sometimes when you change up and eat a more wholesome diet, you feel full for longer. Experiment and experience. Instead of snacking on chocolate, snack on something else, fruits, vegetables. Think about what I'm sharing. Experiment and experience. I know that a couple of days is not enough, so you can carry it on afterwards. You're free to. But Be'ezras Hashem, listen, the truth is, if each individual changed what we have spoken about so far, people have become more conscious about their breathing, hydration, sleeping, and putting the right nutrition into their body, we're going to function completely differently in our normative everyday living. We're going to be cleaner in our thinking, more conscious. We will be happier, more fulfilled, healthier. And again, I don't think it's so far-fetched to say that Tikkun Olam, when we speak about the inyan of Tikkun Olam, changing our way of living increases our resonance, the vibration, increases spirituality, whatever that means. What you understand from it, you understand from it, but increases the quality of our life. It increases how we interact with reality. Beseder, bracha, mazel, and hatzlacha.